Hi, welcome to the Sheffield International Film Festival. We are delighted to be joined by Sam Cadman, the director of the short film The Snow Maze. Hey Sam, how are you doing?
Very good, thank you, Neil.
So I actually just interrupted you. You were telling me about what sort of drew you to this story and the fact that you filmed it in the fields behind the house you grew up in.
Yeah, so my son had brought the book home. It's actually written, the original book was written by Jan Morris, who lived in Oxford. Sadly, she died. But she was quite an established children's book writer, and it was a little small kids' book. And sort of two coincidences. One, where I'd been to school, they had this very large turf maze, which there's a handful of them in the country. And so I was sort of aware of these things. And when I read the book to my son, I could just see it taking place in these fields where I'd grown up, the landscape of East Anglia that's very flat and sort of open. And that was sort of the genesis of it. And as you know, I'm essentially a comedy director. That's really what I do. And I really do adverts, or I have for the last 20 years. And it felt like a chance to do something completely different, given that it's not funny at all. And it's much more visual than perhaps I get to do normally. So I think that kind of collection of things felt like a good project. And it was a lot of fun. We shot it over 4 days, 2 days in this field, 2 days in a school. And, you know, it was just wonderful. Again, coming from really advertising where you've got so many people involved and so many people to make sure are happy to move on. You know, shooting The Snow Maze, there was no one else other than myself to check, you know, before we'd move on to the next shot. And that's as a creative person, was a really satisfying feeling.
Fantastic. And you talk about, obviously it's a cast of children. Where did you find, the performances in it are absolutely fantastic. Where did you find these kids and how did you go about working with them?
Well, it's funny, you know, casting is obviously a big part of the whole thing. And I wanted very much, we cast a lot in the area. So we went around all the schools in Essex, sort of within the location, near the location. In fact, we went around lots of schools, full stop. We went to drama schools. And at the same time, we did do some casting in London through my commercials casting director. Now, as it turned out, I think most of them came from that London casting. Certainly, the two leads did, which was obviously fantastic because I thought they did an amazing job, but I was sort of hoping I was going to find some diamond in the rough, you know. But they were a joy, and certainly the sort of main four actors were fantastic. In fact, now that I think about it, the character who plays Tim, he came from Manchester, so we obviously did a session up in Manchester. And they were all, you know, their enthusiasm for it was just fantastic. I mean, compared to, you know, 40-year-old commercials actors who are somewhat war-torn by the experience, you know, they just were dying, you know, they couldn't wait. And it was really tough because we were out on this field and we shot at round about this time, so the beginning of February. And we'd chosen that time because, in fact, I think it was the half term, the school half term, because we figured that was going to be the coldest time of year. And sure enough, on the first day of filming it, it did actually snow. So we took that very much as a good sign. But it meant, you know, shooting out in those fields was just, I mean, it was like the Somme. I mean, you took 3 steps and you were just weighed down with mud. So we had to kind of carry the actors around, literally to sort of plonk them down in position so that they could actually move and not become kind of literally stuck in the mud. But they were just great. You know, it was cold, it was difficult, but they just kind of, their enthusiasm was a joy.
Fantastic. And it's done, you've played quite a few festivals now. Has it finished its festival run or is it still going? Is there
it's kind of having a bit of a second wind because, you know, this is my first short I've done, and certainly my first drama. And I sort of applied, it was just me applying. So, you know, I was doing it with zero experience. And as it's gone on, you know, through the festivals, it's sort of begun to get an idea of its profile, if you know what I mean. And so it's sort of having a bit of a second wind this year with children's festivals.
Oh, fantastic.
And that's been really nice because, you know, there is a kind of theme about bullying and anti-bullying and how to deal with bullies. And it's nice that that's getting picked up by some of the festivals aimed at a younger audience.
Fantastic. And if people want to follow, have you got more projects coming now? Are you moving more away from commercials into more of the narrative stuff?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely pitching hard on longer form projects, both in comedy, and particularly in the States, which is where I do most of my work. But funnily enough, I've just finished the synopsis for a feature-length version of this, of The Snow Maze. And I would love, in fact, it's right here in my hand.
Oh, there you go.
It's actually called now Sebastian and the Snow Maze. And you know, that would obviously be a dream. It'd be great to get that off the ground. There's a couple of producers here film producers here that I'm talking to about that, and I guess we'll see.
And what, if people want to follow your career and follow what happens with the Snow Maze, what's the best way for them to do that?
Probably Instagram. I'm on Instagram. You can type in my name, Sam Cadman. My actual handle is Mr. Codlar. I've got
Nice.
this
We'll
long history of misspellings of my name, and I thought that no one had Mr. Codlar, so I went with that. So Mr. Codlar or just my name, Sam Cadman. And yeah, there's all the information there.
Brilliant. Cool. Well, best of luck with the film. I'm sure, like you say, it's fantastic. It's got a nice little run going in the children's festival, so people can seek that out. And I'm sure any festivals it's playing at, people will be able to find that on your Instagram. So definitely make sure you give Sam a follow. And thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Thanks, Neil.
Cheers.